go brownies. The kids cardiac, catch me in the muni where the party at. Dog pound, turn up with the elf up on my starter cap. Brought him back, boy we from the land and we proud of that. Louder man, front to the back, here we go, I got him shouting that. Here we go brownies, here we go brownies, here we go brownies, here we go brownies. Game on the line, Joe Thomas, I promise. Jim Brown running through opponents, how I got this. I return like Josh Cripps, paying for the mini, got the dog pound jumping. Here we go brownies, here we go brownies, here we go brownies, here we go brownies.
Cleveland, this is for you.
Mr. Hero's turning 60. We're proud to have served your favorite cravings for 60 years in celebrating what we do best. Thanks, Ohio.
I crave a hero.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast, live from Cleveland, Ohio tonight. We are joined by Yan in Akron, just south of Cleveland here, and Camryn Justice with the Beat Reporter will be joining us very soon, about 7:15, to give us all the latest, all the buzz, all the tea on what's going with the Cleveland Browns head coaching search. Yan, how have you been?
Good. I'm so happy to be back. Very excited to talk about what's going on and everything we're seeing today.
Yeah, so obviously it's been a crazy week with everything going on with the Browns and stuff like that. We'll just get into it. Couple things, and we'll obviously talk with Camryn a little bit here. The Browns are now kind of going through their second round of interviews. Mike McDaniel withdrew, so he is a minority candidate, and so that's put a real pickle into what the Cleveland Browns are trying to do, because obviously they are looking excited for the guy from the Rams coordinator that they got to wait for. But in the meantime, Udinsky and some of these other guys are coming into play for the Browns. And in all the midst of that, you have a playoff game, and McDermott is fired from the Bills, and you had 10 openings at one point in the NFL, which 9-10. That's crazy. 4 of those have been filled. There's 6 left to fill. Isn't this crazy? A third of the league replaced their head coaches. Just curious what your take on that is, just from a perspective, we all have jobs, right? And we get fired and hired. But in my lifetime, I can't remember the last time 10 head coaches in the National Football League were let go. Maybe 4 or 5. This is double that. And I feel like this is monumental because Mike Tomlin, 19 years. 20 years, Harbaugh. These are some institutional coaches, right, that just stepped away. So just curious, what do you take of that, and where the NFL is kind of going?
Yeah, I mean, the coaching is very much out of control right now. It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on. And playoff coaches getting fired, it's not something that you see, but I thought it was just even so interesting to see Stefanski land a job so fast. And I know we kind of briefly talked off air about that. We were just saying you expected that to happen. But all in all, everybody does have a job at the end of the day that they have to do. So we understand that. And I guess it really doesn't matter your tenure these days, because everybody's trying to win. So they're like, you know what, if we got to get fresh eyes in here and new people in here, then we do. But I'm just looking at it wow, this is crazy. It seems like there's a new headline every day.
Yeah, it's what's the breaking news on ESPN, when you look up. So, interesting, and I don't know if you got to see this, Yan, but it was very interesting. The owner of the Bills came out today because I think he was taking a lot of okay, you just hired a guy that won twice as many games, 99 and 50. Let me say that again, 99 wins and 50 losses. So he won twice as much as he did win, Now, yeah, did the Buffalo Bills not get over the hump? Did they? But you know what? You're also playing in a league with Patrick Mahomes. Kind of a rough time to be a quarterback in this era with arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time playing.
Yeah.
So he said, why did you make the decision? And I just would like to get your reaction to this because it was interesting. He goes, I went into the locker room. I saw a quarterback, my quarterback, Josh Allen, sobbing, crying, his head down, lifeless, listless. Told him that was a catch. That was obviously a catch. That would have changed the game because then the next game they called it not a catch. So, or so it's kind of like we can talk about officiating. That could be a whole show of refs and officiating. But he said, I made the decision based on what I saw in my quarterback and what I saw in the locker room. And I feel like I stepped back, and I think we all do this, right? Like from a human standpoint. I was like, did you make a quick decision and an emotional decision based on a football game, right? Like I think sometimes you have to take like 48 hours and just like, just reset. And I said, did this guy just totally make an emotional decision that may come back to haunt him? So I just thought that was interesting that like he judged it on one game, which by the way, the Bills were on the road in the playoffs. They weren't even a home game. They weren't even favored in that game. I think by 2 or 3. And he made that decision based on one football game. So I'm just curious, like, what do you think of that? That's crazy to me that you would just make one decision in a micro kind of situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, because you should be able to just sit and think on some things instead of just being, so reckless with a decision like that. Not to say it was the worst decision of all time, but I guess what we see is that, most coaches and stuff are building relationships with their players and stuff. And, they start to develop this and they see how they're, interacting with everything that's going on. So,
Right.
When I'm thinking about something like that, I'm like, I can see the standpoint of as to why that would happen. But also at the same time, you would have thought he would have set on that, like instead of just making that decision. But I guess I'm looking at it more so from a standpoint of like, imagine your friend like sobbing about something and you're just
Right.
like, I just want to be able to fix this right away. So I can understand it, but at the same time, it does seem a little reckless to just make a decision like that just from one game.
Yeah, and I think you need a few days to kind of let that just vet out, talk to players. I don't know, just because a player played his life out, well, yeah, that's sports. Someone wins, somebody loses. Right? Like that's just, I'm sorry, but Bernie Kosar made it to the AFC Championship for the Cleveland Browns 3 times, right? Like, but they didn't. Marty eventually got fired, but.
Yeah.
Of the Browns, but it's just weird to me that you would just make that I don't know this. I think this league is starting to say that quarterbacks are more important than coaches. Like that's just, I don't know. It's just really weird to me that that's even happening. Let's give a quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Primetime Sports. That's right, guys. If you weren't there last night, wow, what a night for Harold Fannin Jr. Out there in Canton, Ohio. There had to be 600 to 700 people that showed up for that signing. Obviously, he's a Canton kid and a Bowling Green alum, but it was exciting for the entire community to come out there and actually visit with him. That was super cool. A couple things I want to announce here. Terrell Owens, that signing, you definitely want to get in on that. That's going to be January 31st. And then even sooner than that, 2-time World Series champion Kirk Gibson will be there Wednesday, January 28th. We will be down there live with our show. That'll be super cool. Also, announcement, any of those people that were looking to see Dennis Rodman this weekend, I think all of Northeast Ohio knows it's going to snow a lot this weekend. So they have moved that date to February 1st, 1 to 2 p.m. New date on that. Of course, then you've got the other guys, Jameis Winston. We love Jameis Winston. He will be in on January 31st as well. So check him out. And then Sean Kemp will be here this Saturday at the Great Northern Mall. That will be Sean Kemp, the former Sonic and obviously Cavalier. So exciting stuff. They're always bringing in players, but I'm personally excited to go see Jameis Winston. That guy's got a personality larger than life. I mean, I just want to hang out with Jameis Winston for like a half hour because he's just going to be there. You don't know what he's going to say.
So bubbly, like he has like the best energy.
Well, fun fact. So obviously, first and foremost, let's give people a real quick. Where can people find you on socials, Yan, that are looking to follow you on your socials real quick?
Yeah, so I have it in here as well, but it's callher_Yan. So CALLHER_YAN. And I am on all social media platforms. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I always joke and say MySpace, YouTube. So yeah, you can find me, and I'm also on Threads and Twitter. Well, now X.
Yeah, so very cool. What I was going to say is, I don't know if you saw this, but the last Super Bowl, this is before Jameis had a job yet, the NFL hired him for the Super Bowl to go do social media, like you, right? Goes out in the community, does all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
His social media views for that week of him doing all those combined got more views than the Super Bowl. That was wild to me. Like, I mean, we're talking about the most viewed sports thing in the world, and he had more views. So that man's got a future in the booth or on the sideline doing something in the NFL. So
yeah,
excited for him to do that. Let's give a couple other shout outs to some of our sponsors. Stadium Mustard. If you don't have it in your fridge or in your house, go get it. If you're across the country and watching this show and you can't get Stadium Mustard, go to stadiummustard.com. They'll directly ship it to your house. That's right, stadiummustard.com. It's iconic. It's at every Cleveland Browns football game in the stadium and many other places in Ohio. But check out stadiummustard.com. Another quick shout out to our friend Crystal John Tony. That's right, Crystal John Tony. She is our exclusive realtor. Check her out. You can find her on any of the socials. If you're wanting to call her, she can help you with rentals. Investment property. As we all know, Ohio is starting to become a very, very hotbed for affordable homes to buy, and people are actually looking at the Cleveland market as a stable market to purchase real estate. So check her out. She's with the EXP Group. We love her. She's our exclusive realtor partner. That's Crystal John Tony at 216-215-6663. And of course, you can find her on all the socials as well. So we'll talk about this a little bit. Obviously, Stefanski, good segue. You were talking about how Stefanski got hired so quickly. And actually, it was the second job that got open, right? Like, I mean, I think he might have applied for the Bills job. I think a lot of people would have if they knew that was going to be open. So it was kind of weird how that all went down. But yeah, he's bringing most of his staff from Cleveland. Tommy Rees I don't know if you saw this, just got announced he'll be the offensive coordinator. He's bringing a lot of Chad O'Shea, the wide receiver. He's actually going to the Chiefs. But what do you make of that? Like, I just, like, what do you think of that hire? Like, I think he's a good coach, but I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people thought he should have got an OC job, maybe go back to an offensive coordinator. What do you think of Atlanta pulling the trigger really quick on that hire? Like, I mean, I thought it was pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it seems like it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Like, I feel like that's mainly what happened with this situation because, I mean, I just think about what we've seen in Cleveland, and I mean, I don't understand. That's the one thing I'm still trying to understand when it comes to coaches and stuff. Like, did everybody not see how things have been going in Cleveland? Like, what's going to change with him moving over there? Like, because he has a new team and, new people around him. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the play calling that he did, a lot of the things that we've seen, like, down the field, is he going to magically just go ahead and turn all of that around when he moves over to this new team? But I thought it was very shocking to see that. But again, I think it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think it had a lot to do with, maybe just former relationships and stuff, because I mean, there's some way better coaches that we see that are, I mean, at least from what I've seen, that, could have had a job before he did. Or so I would have thought.
Yeah, so let's turn that to something that kind of broke the internet last night. Baker Mayfield, and he has not taken it down. I did check. He decided to clap back at a guy named D. Orlando Ledbetter. Hashtag Falcons Kevin Stefanski has a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction of 11 other starters. Quarterback Shedeur Sanders closed out the season with 7 starts. Failed is quite a reach, pal. So you already know he's coming with a little bit of a hot take. Still waiting on a text/call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. So you can see there's a little bitter pill there. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. Is this the Baker of old that came out? What do you think?
I mean, when I read that, I was just like, I mean, it was very entertaining to say the least. I was just like, wow, okay, well, and we kind of briefly talked about how someone else said, like, the phone works both ways, and it does. But yeah, I mean, when I seen it, like I said, I was just very entertained, and I was just like, this is interesting. But I mean, I can see what he means by failed because, Baker was also one of those players, right? As soon as he got out of Cleveland, he had a really great season. So like I can see why he'd make that. It's like I see where, he might be perceived as bitter in that scenario, but at the same time, it's like, obviously he's had his firsthand experience with Stefanski, so that's not coming out of nowhere, right?
Right. Well, awesome. Well, we are going to join on the program now. Camryn looks like she's been able to join us, so we're going to add her to the show.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hey, Camryn, good.
Camryn, I'm still a little sad after that butt whooping of the Cavs game. That was a.
Yeah, I was. I thought, the first quarter they were like keeping it within, single digits, and I was like, okay, okay, and then it got out of hand, and I was like, oh boy, all right, never mind. Let me just turn the page. That one, I mean, it didn't really surprise me. The Cavs have been a roller coaster. They've been trying to figure out themselves, obviously, over the past several weeks, and OKC is OKC. Like they have their identity. There is no question who they are. So not really surprising. Still a bummer. That doesn't feel good to watch a blowout like that one.
Well, like you've watched a lot of basketball, Camryn, and don't you think? And I was sitting there watching these guys. They remind me a lot of the Golden State Warriors, where they just go on these like 10, 12-point runs, and like within a couple minutes, you're like, well, we were within 6, and now we're down 18. Like it just that OKC team just seems like they're so like they can flip on a dime, and then all of a sudden we're calling a timeout because like, whoa, this is out of hand.
Oh, you saw the fourth quarter there. Like, I mean, the way that they can shoot the three too. It's if they're hot, and there's no stopping them. And the Cavs defense has struggled, right, at times. So from the three, that like the perimeter defense, I was like, oh no! Like, not only are they struggling and like trying to figure out their identity there, then you're going against a team that once they get hot, good luck stopping them. It was a perfect storm for not a great game. So back tonight.
Yeah. So. Quick question for you before we get into the coaching search, right? That's going to be a big part of our conversation. But of course, Baker Mayfield decided to break the internet last night. And I know you've got to cover him. Daryl Ryder's made some comments out there about, some of the stuff interacting with him. You read it. What do you make of that? That's just, it's interesting. And it reminds me of the younger, immature Baker versus the Baker I've been watching for the last 2 or 3 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the guy that's kind of evolved,
Yeah, I think that part of me is like.
Yeah, so I'm just curious what you make of it, because I mean you covered him, right? So I was just curious, like, what do you make of something like when you see that kind of pushback from some tweet of all things?
Yeah, I think that like part of me thinks that he was being funny as well a little bit there. There was like some humor to it at the end, like can't wait to see like play a twice a year coach. That's like Baker has always had that, right? That like that edge that sometimes it's like funny and charming, and sometimes it's like, oh, why would you say that? That one, I mean, it was interesting. It obviously broke the internet. I'm not in the camp of like rehashing, like any drama that was in there, because I will say this, like, yes, like Baker Mayfield in Cleveland which was his first stop and his first place as an adult, right? Had growing up to do, as everybody in that scenario would. I don't have the same stories of, interactions being crazy negative, because we did not have those interactions. That was never. It was always either like nothing burgers or relatively positive. Like I didn't have anything negative happen with me specifically, so I can't speak to like those stories that are happening. But like, yeah, this back and forth. A part of me thinks it's like fun and funny. I also am like, yeah, I could see like Baker was always the guy, right, that like loved having the chip on his shoulder,
Right.
And I think that like that bodes well for players a lot. I think like if you're that kind of guy that like loves that adversity and battling through it, then that's perfect. So part of me is also like, is he putting a chip on his shoulder? So when they do face each other, like there's a little rivalry, gives him like heated. I didn't think it was that crazy. I do think like the stories that are coming out afterwards, like I don't think it needs to be piled on, right? Like if him and Kevin Stefanski don't have a good relationship, that's not in our hands. That's in Atlanta. That's in Tampa. Like, but I don't know. Like I will say this. Like I think I have, as you mentioned, like over the years, you kind of feels like you've seen Baker mature in the capacity of like public facing. That doesn't mean like because he's one person on Twitter, he's one person on the football field, and he's his own individual human being. So I'm not going to want to tell somebody like they need to grow up if like they have fun on social media that way, right? But it does feel like we've seen less of that over the years. But he's chippy, he always has been. Doesn't surprise me. And on the flip side, I think like, yeah, there's other stories right now of like, well, is Kevin Stefanski a bad coach? Was he like, and for me personally, like I've seen him be a very good coach, and I think he's like highly respected in a lot of groups. And I think there's also players who have had to grow that relationship because they're just like different people and they had a different understanding. Kevin Stefanski said I think it was the last press conference that he had, the relationship that he has with David Njoku and how David didn't like him at first. I think that's kind of one of these things, like you either grow to like appreciate somebody or you just kind of grow to tolerate them and whatever. But everybody has different relationships. I'm not thinking too deep into it. I'm like, okay, if they want to have a rivalry, hell yeah. like that'll be watch. It's going to be must-watch TV when those two play each other, and the storylines that they'll write in Atlanta and in Tampa Bay will be fun. I don't have to write those here. So
I'm thinking back to the Hugh Jackson, remember? Like when he was going down the sideline and Hugh had went back to Cincinnati as a consultant or whatever, he looked him right in the eye. Like I think he's always not had the best relationship maybe with his head coaches. Like, I mean, if you think about like there's that Hughes situation, now there's this. I do think it's interesting that Joe Thomas went right back out there to, and came back today and said, hey, look, the phone call goes both ways. Last time I checked, you could call Kevin and talk his ear a little bit. Like I thought that was like, which is true. Like great. Like why are you waiting for the phone call? If you're upset, you usually address the issue, right? Or if you have a beef, right, you try to address it.
I think that's such like the situation, and Baker, I think a little downplay there from Baker Mayfield too of how things actually went down. Not in the context of his tweet, which is his tweet, or I think it was like supposed to be like a little bit more fun than it was like a huge jab at him. It definitely was a shot, but I think it was supposed to be a little bit more harder than it's coming off. But like, because lost in the context is Baker Mayfield did request a trade. He absolutely requested a trade. Now, did he feel justified in that? Probably, when the team is outwardly looking at options at quarterback, when they're going down to Houston to look at Deshaun Watson. I feel like I would probably feel a certain type of way if I'm a player that is seeing their team consider replacing them, like especially with all the way things went, the shoulder injury, and it was that the reason they wasn't playing well in 2021, and then there's all these questions, right? And so when the team says that in the comments that came out in the reports that they were looking for an adult in the room, I would feel a type of way as well. But he did request the trade because of it. He could have taken it differently. He could have gone to them and said, like, I don't like that. Like, that needs to stop. What was that? But he made the public announcement that he was requesting and demanding a trade. And so like tossed away like a piece of garbage, I felt like was a little out of context because like they didn't really toss you away. Maybe they would have, maybe even if he didn't. I don't think that was necessarily the case. I think that it's more likely the demand for a trade put them in a position where, and we know what kind of the perception of Baker Mayfield in that time was, where, okay, well, if we don't figure this thing out in Houston, we're not going to have a quarterback because Baker wants out. And I don't know that Baker was the kind of guy that would move past a trade request at that point. So
yeah,
I think that kind of was a domino. And then now here we are, like that initially it wasn't just the Browns inquiring about Deshaun Watson, which a bunch of other teams around the league did. It wasn't just the Browns and the Falcons. It was the Browns, the Falcons, and like 10, 11 other teams that were looking into the possibility of trading for Deshaun Watson. And then Deshaun Watson ruled the Browns out. So it wasn't a sure thing. It wasn't as if the Browns went full sell. We got to have Deshaun. Like Deshaun not going to play.
Yeah, it wasn't until we put all of our chips in the middle, basically.
And you had to because you didn't have a quarterback. Like, I mean, could they have gone a different route? For sure. But at that point, they were already inquiring within Deshaun. They liked Deshaun as other teams did. And now you don't have Baker Mayfield, so you got to make a move. And I feel like that, like Baker's trade request probably led directly to that. So it goes both ways. I think the little context was missed there. But at the end of the day, we are here where the head coach that was here isn't here anymore. That quarterback is not here anymore. And here soon, probably the quarterback that they traded for is not going to be here anymore. And so the Browns have an opportunity to rewrite what happened there and try to build past it. But that was a pivotal moment. And to see the drama continue to unfold from that it's interesting. It's like the throwbacks of 2016 is trending. It's like, you can't get out of the past. Now 2021 is trending.
Yeah, revisionist history, but what people got to realize is I'd rather an owner swing and miss than not swing at all, right? Like, because we have not been able to figure out the quarterback position for 25 years. And so to your point, Camryn, that there were 13 to 15 teams asking for the services of what it would take to get Deshaun Watson on their football team. Mm-hmm. That tells you half the league doesn't like who their quarterback is currently playing. I mean, that's crazy to think, but that's just the truth. And if you were getting that Deshaun Watson, that was that guy, MVP, Pro Bowler type of player, those guys don't come available at 26 and 27 years old in the league. You get the Aaron Rodgers at 38, 39, the Joe. I mean, you get these guys way out of their prime because you're not going to get Josh Allen to come out of there. You're not going to get Joe. I mean, that stuff just doesn't come, right? And so it sucked because once that leaked that the Browns were all in, and it was like, that was kind of just a weird moment. Like, I know when I saw the tweet, like I'm sitting there going, I thought the Browns were out. They just signed Deshaun Watson. Like, I was like, how did that happen? Because that was like a 180. I did not even see that coming.
Because it wasn't supposed to happen. I'm convinced that if Baker Mayfield, if it's like the perfect domino effect, if that doesn't happen, if that wasn't a scenario, I think that Deshaun Watson would have been an Atlanta Falcon. Yeah, I think he would have been an Atlanta Falcon, but that's not how it played out. And the swing and the miss. I mean, yeah. I like the aggression to like find that position has been so important for them. And the organization understands that has been the biggest miss. Since 99, you're trying to find a quarterback and every single time you think you find a quarterback, it's wrong. And it is though. It's like the hardest position to figure out perfectly. Right. Other teams, like sometimes you luck into it. Sometimes it's about developing, and sometimes the supporting cast. Is your offensive line good enough for this quarterback to step up? Is your coaching staff good enough to develop a quarterback into being a franchise guy, or is the talent level there within a franchise guy? And it's like things have to just be an ideal situation, and we know how luck works in Cleveland. It certainly hasn't been an ideal situation in so many different eras of this team. And so like I respect the idea of like going out and getting a quarterback that you think is proven and can like, you don't have to worry about that position. I think that everything else surrounding that made me not love the move and not even like the move. I was really hoping that didn't happen just because of all the things that came from it. And then the questions then were, what would 2 years away from football look like?
Right.
It feels like that we're seeing it. And the risk for me felt too high, but they went all in because I feel like they probably felt like they didn't really have an option. And now here we are. And so now the reality for them is not only trying to figure out, okay, can we draft a guy to develop? Did we already draft a guy that can develop? But can we create consistency at the position? Because Andrew Berry said it in his last press conference after they fired Kevin Stefanski. Was asked if they are planning to draft a quarterback or sign a quarterback in free agency. And he said, we're going to explore all those options because the position is too important not to. And that's how this organization has to see it. And so it is an interesting spot for them right now. But it's all like, it all just stems back to that story of Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns and how things didn't shake out. And the relationship's probably not great. Definitely could have been better. Were they bad enough to the point where we're at now, where we're talking about it like this? I feel like it should not have gotten that far, and it shouldn't be where we're at right now. But that's just me.
Well, before we get into the coaching, Yan, did you have a question for Camryn by chance? Anything you want to ask her specifically?
No, nope. I don't have any questions, but thanks, Camryn, for jumping on. It's so good to be on here with you. I hear so many great things about you, so I'm just feeling honored right now.
I got to meet you at the Cavs game, so that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool.
Yeah, so let's rip the Band-Aid off. Just like every one of the other reporters in Cleveland, you're checking your phone every 38 seconds to see if there's a dark horse candidate coming in. Give us the latest. Obviously, we got some folks that have come through for second round interviews. I know it's been talked about out there that McDermott the Browns may have some interest in McDermott. I know I feel like now the Cleveland situation is very fluid. Like this could go any directions now because I feel like because of we were talking about before he came on. I mean, there was 10 head coach openings in the NFL. It's crazy. Like this is way wild. So kind of give us kind of like what you know so far and update the fans. And then if anybody has any specific questions that Camryn will have them, I'll pop it up here as well.
Yeah, first of all, this has just been what a wild offseason, right? Could have anticipated. It was like, are we talking a third of the league is looking for a head coach? Or
well, and we said this, like Harbaugh's and Tomlin's, we're talking legacy coaches, like stepping away from, legacy franchises. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think like across the league, right. It doesn't surprise. Some of these don't surprise me. Some, I think if it were me in charge, I wouldn't have made the moves. Like Mike Tomlin felt like stepping away, not a huge surprise, just because I feel like if he didn't step away, whether it was this season or next year, I think he would have been fired. I mean, just because it's that perpetual, like, yeah, he's got a winning record every year, and you have to respect him as a coach. He's an incredible coach that gets them on a roster that on paper has looked terrible for years. And I really I think about it every year. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the Steelers and what they should be with who they have, and I don't feel like they should be good. I feel like they should be in the basement of the AFC North. And then somehow the Browns and the Bengals end up in the basement and the Steelers end up on top. And I think that's because they continuously have winning records, and that's a lot to do with coaching. So Mike Tomlin, despite that, though, hasn't been able to win a playoff game in 3,000 whatever days. And so that plays into it. And then you look at Harbaugh, and Harbaugh has Lamar Jackson, and he had Derrick Henry in the backfield, and bad things happen, small things happen, and anything. A season can go any way, and it really can come down to one or two plays, moments that you wish you could take back, and like those small moments. If we'll talk about McDermott in a second, any one play can change everything. And so for Harbaugh, it's like, okay, how have you not been able to win a Super Bowl with the offense the weapons and the things that the Ravens have right now. It just feels like, especially not even being at the top of the AFC North, like you've got to be able to be the king of your division if you have a roster like that. And that's not even necessarily coaching. It's just like sometimes bad things happen, and that didn't really surprise me either, just because I think it would have maybe extended a little bit if they wanted it to, had they won.
Right.
But they didn't, and now you're talking about that, and it's the same with the Bills and McDermott. It's, if they won that game, he would not have been fired. But I knew going into this playoffs, like he had to make it there. The AFC felt as wide open as it's ever been, and you have Josh Allen, and they don't have receivers. They do not have receivers. I'll give the Bills that they do not have receivers. They've got running backs and tight ends as their leading receivers, and they haven't addressed the wide receiver position the way that they should have. And so that makes it a lot more difficult. But you're in that position and you lose that game, and it is a play. It is a interception turned into maybe it was a reception, maybe it was an interception. It's a bad game out of Josh Allen, and like those things lead to major decisions, even if it feels abrupt and maybe it shouldn't come down to one thing. It always felt to me as if they didn't make it here, he was going to be fired. So I wasn't even surprised by that one. I'm shocked that if you have a coach of that caliber and a team that is perpetually making, you're 8-8 and you're complaining about being 8-8 in the playoffs, but that means you've had 16 playoff games. Like, can you really be that mad about that? But eventually it gets to a point where, yeah, as a team, as an organization, if you can get there, but you're not getting past the hump, you've got to find a way to get over it. And I think that's where the mentality was, is it's always someone has to be the fall guy. We've seen it in Cleveland. Like JB Bickerstaff was a great coach in Cleveland, and the Cavs were off sports here, but the Cavs were not getting past that hump. And so that's why Kenny Atkinson is in here, because you have somebody has to go in order to like try to generate some change. And that happens across sports. It happens in every league that we watch and enjoy. These things happen. So it's unfortunate, but doesn't surprise me. And that's all about the NFL head coaching. So it's not even the Browns. So
yeah, I was just going to say, we talked about this kind of a little bit, but, you probably saw what the owner said of the Bills, and the reason he, made the decision. He walked into a locker room. He saw his quarterback crying, emotionally lifeless. And, he kind of I feel like he made an emotional, like he let his emotions as an owner get the best of him. And Jan and I were talking about this. Maybe you should have stepped back for 48 hours and recalculated and thought about this, because I don't think you should ever make anything in an emotional state a decision, because it usually leads to bad things. And the fact that he kind of put that out there publicly, I looked at my guy, he's crying, he didn't respond to me. Like, okay, well, he just, made mistakes in the game and played his ass off and tried to do the best he possibly could for you guys. Okay, like, and by the way, you're not favored in this football game. You're on the road. Like, okay, yes, Patrick Mahomes is not in the playoffs, but still, it was anybody's game, right? Like, I think Denver was favored. So it's like, and it went into overtime. It's not like if you get blown out on the road, or, you lose, like you lose like San Francisco did. Okay, now you can ask some questions, but like it's an overtime loss. Like
it feels to me like that was a decision that was made before.
Okay.
I feel like it was a decision that they meant, whether or not they like discussed it legitimately. But I think the mindset, because that was my thought. It was like, okay, I think that McDermott might get fired if they don't get there.
Right.
And if I'm thinking that, I feel like that probably was a thought in their mind. So I think that the thought has crossed their minds. I don't know that it was necessarily okay, we've lost this game, like just can't do it. Josh is crying. Dion's crying, like we can't do this anymore. Like I truly think like that was probably the catalyst to it, but I think the idea was already probably in their head, because in the NFL, it's about what have you done for me lately, not what have you done for me entirely. And if you have not gotten to where you need to be, it's an unfortunate reality of the league is you're probably not long for the position. You're going to have to look for another opportunity, because it's an ever-changing and evolving league, and there's rising stars and up-and-comers and the next best thing. And so you've got to stay on your game. That's why coaches have to be able to evolve. That's why while the coaching tree and the cycle is kind of feels repetitive of the guys getting new opportunities and the same coaches kind of like bouncing around because they're respected, when they start to fade away from that, that's when you start to see the up and coming rising stars sneak their way in and pop their way in and get those opportunities because the leagues change. And so if the league is changing and you're already battling that and you aren't getting the results that you're looking for, and it just continues to feel like this, you're just on an endless loop of, okay, we're in the playoffs and then we're out of the playoffs and we're in the playoffs and we're out of the playoffs. It doesn't surprise me that you make that decision, because you have to have results, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who the next person is, and you don't know what you might have in that next guy. So yeah, and so here we are, and that's, I think, very similar to what the Browns are thinking in a different way, not making the playoffs every year, but having the inconsistency of being in the playoffs in 2020. Kevin Stefanski comes in here. Oh, look at that playoff game, playoff win, first time in 18 years. That's amazing. And then some struggles. And then 2023, Joe Flacco magic comes in, and you're back in the playoffs and everything's great. And then 8 wins in 2 seasons, and it's just like a roller coaster, and it's the what have you done for me lately? And
Yeah.
I think that led to the decision to, okay, we got to find something to spark this, to change this, because it's not working at a consistent level. How can we create consistency? It's the same thing they got to do at quarterback, is they're looking for a consistent coach. Could it have been Kevin down the road? We'll never know now, but I think it's akin to them looking to take risks at quarterback to try to find that. I think they're willing to take a risk here to try to find somebody that can coach them into consistency.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, you're seeing what's happening. Schwartz and some of these guys are getting their second interviews. Udinski, I believe, gets his second interview tomorrow. What are you hearing and what are you seeing out there just from the coaching standpoint? Like, what's going on out there?
Yeah, so obviously in phase 2 with the second interviews happening, Jim Schwartz was the first for that second interview. They interviewed Todd Monken again for that second interview. I think he's still kind of expected to, barring an offering of the head coach job, which I don't think happens for the Browns right now. It's not my feel. He'll go to New York with Harbaugh as OC. I think that's probably expected right now. And then they were supposed to have their interview today with Mike McDaniel, but he withdrew from consideration because he's expected to be the OC with the Chargers. Makes sense. But that development has kind of changed things for the Browns and the next steps. Because we know the Rooney Rule is in place within the league, and McDaniel would have been a second candidate that applied to the Rooney Rule.
Right.
He has to interview in person.
Right.
So that this would have counted as their first, because of all the coaches that they have interviewed and that are on their list currently, that would apply to the Rooney Rule, is Seahawks Dirty from the Seahawks, but he did not receive a second interview at this point. So, and obviously virtual cannot be in person until Monday, which is the same as Nate Scheelhaus. Now, Nate Scheelhaus, his interview on Monday will be their first qualifying candidate that meets the Rooney Rule. McDaniels would have been the first, and then Scheelhaus would have been the second. So now to hire somebody, to make a hire, they will need to interview somebody else unless it is Nate Scheelhaus. So if they hire Nate Scheelhaus,
if they're actually hiring, right, then you don't have to do that because you hired him. Right?
Exactly. So right now, I think that there is an opportunity for the coaching search to kind of extend out, for them to kind of see, okay, well, are there other candidates? Not even just because they have to. I think that might initiate some other conversations. But I think they feel confident in the pool that they have. It's just now getting to where they need to go, and meeting all the requirements to make a hire, which is an unfortunate part of it, because it feels on paper, it feels like, right, like whoever, if there is somebody else that comes in, it feels like maybe they're just coming in for the Rooney Rule, which is not super fair.
It's awkward. It's just like if I'm sitting in a job interview, right, and be like, hey, by the way, I know you're not going to hire me. I know why I'm here. Like, it's just weird. Like, I can't even imagine like being across from that. Like, it's like, I know why I'm here. Hello. Like,
yeah.
Weird.
And I don't love it. And it's not, but it's like, it's to no fault of their own. And to be honest with you, like the Rooney Rule, if you're asking me, I mean, it's been so important because opportunities have not always been there in this league. And so I appreciate the effort from the league to create those opportunities and to ensure that there is consideration for those opportunities. I think that's beyond important, but then you get into a situation like this where then it's like, okay, so now it's a little dicey. Now this doesn't feel good anymore. And it shouldn't feel that way, especially in Cleveland, when the man leading the head search is a minority GM.
Right.
Like, so it feels weird, but it shouldn't feel weird because it's not like that's not the case in Cleveland. It never has been. It has never been the case where the opportunities aren't there.
Right. As I say, and look at baseball, whatever sport you want to, Cleveland has always seemed to be the front runner in that kind of stuff. So
yeah, like this organization does not have that problem by any means. But it is an interesting thing to like now look and see, okay, well, how does this impact the coaching search and the next steps? So I right now, not quite sure. I think that will probably develop over the next couple days, if not hours. I think things will start to make a little bit more sense of how they're going to navigate this now. But they have, their second interview with Grant Udinski, as you said. He's also he got an interview request from the Buffalo Bills, which is, I mean, we're talking about it there, and the talent that they have and how successful they've been. That's a great job. That's a great job opportunity. So now you're in competition with all these other teams too, of head coaching candidates.
Like, do you think the secret got out? Like we knew the secret, right? Like we had the cheat code on Udinski, and then people were like, well, why are the Browns looking at him, right? And all of a sudden, but I mean, if you look at what he did with, in Minnesota with the quarterback position, and now what he's done with Trevor Lawrence, like he's high IQ, right? Like, an Andrew Berry type of guy, I could see him falling in love with a guy like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, okay, wow, if we can if this guy's really 1 year away, but we can get him a year early and he's the next Sean McVay, well, then you got it right. Let me ask you this, and then I'll have Yan ask a question about the coaching search. What do you think about Schwartz, right? Because now we know Stefanski's retaining the defensive coordinator there, so there's no worry that he's going to go anywhere. I know he had an interview, obviously, with the Ravens as well for their head coaching job. What do you make of Schwartz and kind of that awkwardness? We want to keep you. We interviewed you. I mean, it's interesting, right? It's that's kind of an interesting dynamic in itself.
Yeah, I think that Jim Schwartz. First of all, I will say Jim Schwartz is a very strong candidate for this position. Like, let's not get that wrong. I think that he's being highly considered, and he's at the top of the list among. I think it's a two-sided coin, right? Double-sided coin of like, okay, flip it. Are they going to go with a seasoned veteran, somebody they trust? If that's the case, Jim Schwartz is your answer. He is right there. Second interview, they want him in that building, and if they want to keep him, that is one reason, among others, right? He has led the best unit on the team. He is highly respected by the players. He is a strong, accountable guy. That's what they're looking for too. And so on paper, would be a great hire for that team. Now, the other side is, do you want to go out and get an offensive-minded guy, a young up-and-comer that you can hope to be the next Sean McVay, as everyone wants to talk about? Everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay. Can you get a 30-something-year-old, in this Grant's case, literally just turned 30 like a week and a half ago? Can you get a young guy who is newer to this league, which is a huge key you talk about like coaches can get stale, right? Like if you're in this league too long, people figure you out and it's hard to reinvent yourself when you've established yourself. So if you are an up and coming guy that has a really good grasp of what things are in this era of football, in this modern age of figuring things out, how they've changed and how they are ever evolving. We're seeing so many changes in the league and how offenses operate, how defenses operate, how these guys look on a field on any given Sunday. It looks so different than it did 5, 10, 15 years ago. Everything is changing. And so if you can get a guy that is at the pinnacle of I get what this era of football needs to look like and where we are going, I can help us get through this and lead the charge and create some new things and be innovative. Then you've got a guy like Grant Udinski, you've got a guy like Nate Shieldhouse that like, okay, they have a really good grasp on things right now and they are really running things well offensively on a field. They give us an edge and they might give us an edge for years to come. So I think that's like, to me, it like, there's pros and cons for everything. There's the pros to the young guys of, okay, they have these minds and these wrinkles in their schemes and their approach and their ability to connect with a player that is their age or, in Udinski's case, probably older. Like he's probably older than him. And so if you can bring that to the table, the con then is, do they have the experience to lead the group? Do they have what it takes to not just create great schemes, not just create a solid playbook of things that work against other teams and have that understanding, but then you have to make sure that you've got buy-in. You've got to make sure you've got the ability to navigate adversity. And there's plenty of adversity in Cleveland, as we know, so it's not an easy task. So can they handle that part of being a head coach too? So that's the pros and the cons for them. And you got like Jim Schwartz, the pros are the respect and the established experience. And that he can lead. That he can be the leader in the locker room. He can deal with adversity because they've dealt with their own adversity just on his unit alone. He has an understanding of this game at every different level. He's been a coordinator, he's been a position coach, he's been a head coach. So you don't have to worry about that. Now the con is then, will it be good enough? Does he have what it takes to be a head coach again? Is he a great coordinator? Can he be a great head coach? Can he keep up with what football has done offensively too? That would then require a very strong offensive coordinator, which I think is very viable. Look at some of these candidates that are interviewing for head coaching jobs will end up with coordinator roles because they're interviewing for those as well. So there's pros and cons to both sides. It just depends on which way the Browns want to go with it. I tend to think that they might lean heavy young and up and comer.
Okay, that was going to be
I think that's probably, if I were seeing what the Browns are right now and their goals and what they want, they don't want total rebuild. So total rebuild might not be the case. If you can get a young up and comer that you think is ready to go now, that might put you right back in the mix, give you that edge to boost you and get you closer to those goals of not just winning 5 games this season, but contending for your conference to at least your division. I think that's where I see them leaning, but they also, like Jim Schwartz, it's not just all right, here you go because you're here and we don't want to lose you. I think he is a very strong candidate. And so if they choose to lean that way of, okay, let's get a veteran that we know can steer the ship through this, and it's not so much a risk because you kind of know what you're getting in a sense. It's less of that big swing. But there is still an upside to it. It just depends on what they want to go. But I think young, I think that's probably, if I were to guess, but like I said, I mean, it truly feels like it could be 50-50. Like if you told me it was the opposite, if it was just like, okay, we're going to go with Jim Schwartz, wouldn't be surprised. If you said they're going to hire Grant Udinski or a Nate Shieldhouse, I'd be like, yep, that makes sense. I see it. That makes sense too. So it's like a non-answer of like what they will do. But I mean, I think between those three and then like whoever, some candidates that are rise right now, I don't know that Sean McDermott is going to, I don't know if he's in the conversation and if he even would come over here. Like, I don't know. That doesn't feel like right now. Sure, there should be interest. Absolutely. But I feel like it might be like a Harbaugh situation where there's interest, but nothing really comes of it.
Mhm.
So still waiting to see, obviously, that just recently happened, but I think it's probably the candidates we have now. And then like there might be a couple that pop up, one out of necessity, but two out of just like genuine interest. Okay. Like maybe we start to look around and find a candidate that we didn't consider for a head coaching job, but maybe we should have. So
Right.
things will evolve here soon. But I think they're obviously, they always plan to take their time. So
Right. Jan, you want to jump in with a quick question?
Oh, I was just gonna say, what did you think about, is it Todd Monken? He was a former offensive coordinator. I seen he was in the running as well.
yeah, I think Todd Monken is probably not. I don't want to say obviously he's a candidate, right? He's got that experience here. He's offensive coordinator under Freddie Kitchens, which that was not great. But was it Monken? Was it not? It was Freddie probably all over his head. But yeah, he's been great with Harbaugh in Baltimore. Could they have gotten better? For sure. I think he's a strong candidate because he's got plenty of experience in the NFL. He's got experience here in Cleveland, but I think that he's probably wouldn't be at the top of my list. I think he's probably more toward the bottom of the guys that got the callbacks, and not because he's not a good coach, just because of the situation the Browns are in. Monken doesn't feel like the best fit for them right here in this scenario, and I think it is more likely that he just goes to New York with Harbaugh as his coordinator. I think that's probably what we see here in the coming weeks.
So a couple things, and then we'll get you out of here because we're coming up against 8 o'clock already. Can you believe that? So question I have. So, you brought up I think for some weird reason, I think Schwartz is getting a pay raise. If I'm like the genie in a bottle, Schwartz is getting a pay raise because we know he will roll out the dough. He's not afraid to do that, and I appreciate that. And I do think they're going to lean young. I'm on the same page with you. But the only question I have, and the reason I think young, because these coaches are in there at 5 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m. This job to be a head coach in the National Football League is not for the faint of heart. like it's a 24/7 type. I mean, it's not like a college head coach, which that's even crazier. Like to see what Stignetti did with Indiana at 64 years old. Like, I don't know what I don't know if he's like got a drip of coffee all the time, because that guy is like what he's doing. I mean, what he did there is insane. But my question is, with all this, the McDermott, do you see the Browns take a pause? Like you said, they don't have to be the first to hire a head coach, right? Do you see them pausing on like Tuesday of next week and say, should we bring some of these other guys in, like a McCarthy, a McDermott, or a dark horse that Cleveland doesn't see, right? Because we could see like there could be somebody out there that has not been in the media that we just don't have a clue. Do you see the Browns doing a reset after these second interviews and just kind of be like, okay, is there anybody else? Do you see them do that, or do they kind of say, we got to make a decision now between some of these second interview guys?
And I think the only thing that would push it along is if they identify someone they really would like to hire. And again, because of the Rooney Rule that we talked about and not meeting that right now, not being able to. I think that's the only thing that really speeds it along, of like not wanting to miss out on a guy. So somebody has to come in right now to get it done. I think that if they aren't in that position, if other teams are taking their time too, then you can have a pause, because right now, like, Shieldhouse can't do his second interview until Monday. He can't do his first in-person interview. It'll be his second. They spoke virtually. It'll be his first in person, his second.
But that's just, it only counts as one, right? At that point,
it only counts as one for the Rooney Rule. Yeah. So that he can't do that until Monday. Monday is the earliest that he can do it. So you have the next couple days to figure things out. So this might be a pause too. If Udinski comes in, does his interview, you've got a couple days, you got the weekend to kind of sort through things. You don't get a weekend, no time off. you got to get to work. And so I think that might be the pause that we're seeing. So maybe it doesn't extend into next week of taking a pause and then having to wait another week to do things. It might just be the weekend. and then in these next couple days, this might be like a reset for them to evaluate. Because I do think that the McDaniel situation may not have been entirely expected. Like I don't think they anticipated him withdrawing the day before he was supposed to have his interview. So it does change things. And I will be curious to see how they approach that now, because it is an interesting development. But they've got at least Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days to before they're on to their final that is already on the schedule.
Right.
So they've got a couple days to figure it out. I don't know that it needs to be a long pause, but there might be a step back and reevaluation right now that I think it's probably happening right now. Them working through, okay, what are our next steps? What do we want before we get to a point where we're seeing them interview guys and bring them back for like final calls, or narrowing down their list from 5 to 3, or
let me ask you this. Is there a possibility that it's not in the media, that there is a candidate that's already been interviewed once? The Rooney Rule, like the guy on the staff, is there a possibility that that's already happened in your mind? Or do you think that kind of stuff gets out to the public pretty readily?
Yeah, it does. If they interview somebody, they'll announce that they've interviewed somebody for the position. So
yeah, they've been pretty vocal. I've seen about that, especially on the page. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it would be like, oh, we interviewed them 3 weeks ago. Actually, like they would absolutely, they have their announcements of, okay, we've completed an interview. They do the bios, they break down the things, and so the organization, the team, as a public entity, has been very open as these things are happening in real time. And I don't think that I think they would have, whether publicly or not, it would have been out there.
Okay.
Somebody
put in the comment, the Rooney Rule only applies for external candidates. I didn't realize it was I don't know if that was a thing or not. Camryn, do you know if that's for external candidates only? The Rooney Rule? Is that a thing?
So in the Rooney Rule, like right now, the only way for they have to meet the Rooney Rule for a hire, unless it's worked into the language of a contract that a coach is set to take over in X, Y, or Z scenario. So like a Jim Schwartz, if his contract said, if Kevin Stefanski is fired, you will be the head coach, then they would not need to do that. But that is not the case for the Browns right now. So they do need to meet the Rooney Rule. And then the Rooney Rule only applies it was adjusted to have two individuals who meet the qualifications have to interview in person. That was a change from just a couple of years ago. But if you if you have a candidate and you interview them in person and they do qualify and hire them, then you don't need to have a second one, like a second candidate that qualifies for the Rooney Rule in order to hire the first candidate. So
makes sense. All right. Well, we'll get you out of here on this one. So this is a little pressure. Who do you have? Who's your pick for the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game? Seahawks, Rams. Who's your pick?
Oh, see, this one's fun. This one's really fun because that rivalry is always.
You're turning on too as well. So
I like the rivalry. I'm going Seahawks. That defense is legit. I think the Seahawks get that one, and I hope that's the case. I like the Seahawks. It's funny, when I was a kid, I was very young. Date myself. I was young, but there was no Browns team when I started watching football with my family, right? And they were moved. They were not back here, and so I still really as a little kid, I loved watching sports, and so we'd put whatever games on. And the two teams that I watched the most were the then St. Louis Rams, because the greatest show on turf. What a group, what a time.
Right. Yeah.
How can you watch? I started watching the Rams and I was like, okay, this is a great team. Love this. this is fun to watch. And then my soccer team as a kid, one of the soccer teams we had like generic gear that I think they got like from like a bargain bin or whatever. And our logo was the Seahawks logo. So we're the Seahawks. So I remember like watching on TV and thinking like, hey, that's my logo. That's my soccer team. And so then I ended up like watching a lot of Seahawks games when I could. And so those two teams, I've always kind of watched them. As soon as the Browns came back, obviously we're back on board. We're like our household was we're Cleveland sports household. We're watching the Browns, but I always still like kept my eye out on those two teams. And when the Rams moved to LA, it felt different. So the Seahawks still feel the same. So I hope that they have success. My 5-year-old self on my soccer team with that Seahawks band would like to see some success there. I'll take them for that, and because of the fact that I think that their defense is just unbelievable.
Okay, so I'm taking the Seahawks. I lived in the Northwest, as you know. That's where I'm from. The 12th man is real. If the game was in LA, I may have a different opinion, but the 12th man, you cannot hear yourself in that stadium. I went to the Browns game a couple years ago. It is deafening up there. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. Yan, who you got? Seahawks versus LA Rams.
I'm going to go Rams.
Oh, all right. I like it. All right. So pick up the Rams. By the way, it's not a bad pick. They're pretty. I mean, they split this season, so they're pretty evenly matched teams in a lot of ways. All right. Boy, Bo Nix. Unfortunately, what happened to Bo Nix in that football game? Now you have a quarterback that's never thrown a pass this season, playing in the AFC Championship game. I'm going to go New England in this. I think give me Vrabel all day long. This guy played. He's coached. He's been in the big game. He understands this. Give me the Patriots on the road. Go for it, Cam.
I agree. I there might have been a case where it was a little stronger, where I'm like, okay, maybe I could see the Broncos have been on a tear, on a hot streak. Good for them. Maybe they muster it up, but without Bo Nix, how many times are we going to see Nick Foles type magic in this league in these big games? Probably not often. I don't. No offense to Jared Stidham. I'm sure he's, but like I don't see it, especially against, as you like described, a Mike Vrabel coached Patriots. As unfortunate as it is that one fan base that got to have so much success in a dynasty didn't have to wait very long to be good again. I think that it's not super fair. As much as that pains me for the fan, I'm excited for them that they get to experience that again, and they're having fun. Mike Vrabel, I think, is just he's the coach of the year, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
And good for the Patriots for being able to bounce back so quickly. I think that it's not even a question. And I would love to be surprised, because that would be great TV, but
But here's the truth. When a team finds a quarterback, that's the difference. Drake May is the difference for the New England Patriots. If the Cleveland had a Drake May, Kevin Stefanski may still be the head coach in Cleveland. That's the crazy part about this. Jan, who you got in that game? Denver or New England?
I'll go New England this time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Well, Camryn, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know you're going to be working deadlines, probably starting to be working when you get off of this podcast. So appreciate you. We always, and of course, Allie was gone. She's traveling across the country this week, so she couldn't join us. But Camryn, it's always a pleasure. We love. Where can people find you on socials and all those? If they're going to follow you on your socials, where can they find you at?
it's at Cammy Justice, CAMI, on all the things. And then for all the work, news5cleveland.com. Articles, videos, all the things. So I post a lot on different platforms, different things for different platforms. But all the work is always on news5cleveland.com.
Well, an Emmy award winning Camryn, we can't leave without that. Recently, taking home the trophy. So your reporting is always great, and you do a great, phenomenal job with the Browns players. I think you get the human element out of those guys all the time. So appreciate it.
My favorite thing. Thank you guys for having me on. Tell Allie we missed her, but
Yep.
I'll be on again soon to talk to her as well.
Yeah, she'll talk your ear off. All right. Thanks, Cam. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Yeah, bye. So Camryn Justice joining us for the program. We went a little long, Jan. So
Yes,
I know you got to you got to get back to doing some editing, like into
Yes.
the late night. Just kidding. So, Camryn, of course, thanks for joining us. Yeah, I think they're going to go young. Yan, what do you think? Do you think they're going to go young too? I think they're going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes the most sense as well. Like, I mean, I feel like why not go young? Why not, get some fresh energy in there? Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
think we've been seeing that across the board immediately. This is so unrelated, but I think about like Red Lobster, for example. They got a young new CEO in there, and look at what Red Lobster is doing now. I just think this is the way to go. Not saying nothing about our old guys, and I mean, I'm an old too, but it's nice to
You're
get new energy.
A woman should never call herself old, folks. So tell her not to do that. But yeah, so but yeah, let's give a couple quick shout outs to some of our sponsors as well. City Barbecue, if you haven't tried it, you got to get it. It is the best barbecue in the land. 6 Northeast Ohio locations. So go check them out. And then, of course, we have our good friends over at, that's right, we're going to go check them out over here. Let's see, we got City Barbecue. And then, of course, our friends over at, that's right, our newest sponsor. Pretty excited about these guys as well. Give a quick shout out to the Original Steaks and Hoagies. That's right, Original Steak and Hoagies here in Cleveland and the greater Cleveland area. By the way, they have the best deals, best smash burgers, and all the different things over there. So go check them out, the Original Steak and Hoagies. Well, that was a long show, but hey, we got a lot in there. Of course, Cam is always great to join the show. So everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.